And so we are now going to tell you what happened with Lot, and mostly about his two daughters as they hid as refugees. But where else do we encounter two sisters, Rachel and Leah? So we are now going to contrast the behavior of the two daughters of Lot. Significantly, their names are not told to us. And the two daughters of Laban, Rebecca, Rachel and Leah, and so we've got these two sets of daughters, two sets of sisters, Lot's daughters and Rebecca. I'm going to get this right, and Laban's daughters, Rachel and Leah. Okay, we got it now. Main difference we're going to encounter. Let's start off looking at how these two daughters of Lot are identified. So what we'll do is we'll go to Genesis chapter 19, where the story is told, and we will, okay, here we go.
I'm sorry, I didn't bring reading glasses, so I can't help you with the readings.
No, here we go.
Trouble with your voice.
No problem. Chapter 19, verse 31. Chapter 19, verse 31, in Exodus, Lot is in the cave with his daughters, and now the older one said to the younger one, Genesis 19, verse 31, the older daughter said to the younger, our father is old, and there is no man to consort with us in the usual way of men and women. You can understand what she's saying to her sister. And
we should make the point that as far as they knew, this was the end of the world. Just like after the flood, there was only Noah and his family. In these two girls' minds, they and their father were now the entire humanity. And so when she says there's no man, it's not like, well, we should just travel. Like, let's get on our, let's walk for a few days and we'll find the next community. The way what their picture of reality at that point was that they were the last three surviving human beings on Earth.
And it's very important, that when trying to judge people of different periods, that when we apply moral judgments, that we take into account what the moral landscape was like then. It's not altogether fair and certainly not correct to apply contemporary and current moral standards to things that happened a long time ago. So, for instance, polygamy was very common a long time ago. There were no laws against it. And so for us to say, oh, that's terrible, well, for us it may be, but it wouldn't have been necessarily for them. We are also very careful in this. By the way, one of the great legal principles is that you cannot retroactively make somebody guilty. So let's imagine that John did a certain action in 1957, and in 1983, a law was passed making that action illegal, so nobody could do it anymore. You could not, and no legitimate legal authority would ever go after John and say to him, well, now that it's 1983, the action is illegal, we're going to prosecute you because of what you did in 1957. He'll say, what I did was legal. I didn't break any laws. You can't make things retroactive. And so what Lot's daughter is saying to her younger sister, she's saying, look, there are no laws against incest in the world at the moment. And without a law against incest, why would there be anything wrong with it? If God has not prohibited the action, and that doesn't happen until Mount Sinai many, many years later. But right now, she says, look, as Susan explained, the earth is over. This is exactly like the flood. Apparently, the good Lord has this habit of wiping out humanity every few decades. Every few centuries. And so previously, he kept alive Noah and Noah's family. This time, he's kept alive our father and our two daughters. He was willing to keep alive our are they fiancés or husbands? He was willing to keep alive our husbands as well, but they chose to stay in Sodom. They didn't want to come. So they're destroyed. The rest of the world is destroyed, is what they think in their minds. And so now the one imperative which everyone can recognize is the obligation to keep humanity going, and the only choice is our Father, and so let's go ahead. So I just wanted to sort of paint that in a realistic picture, that we don't screw up our faces in horror and disgust at what they did.
The only thing I have to ask you, and I tend to not like asking things I don't know the answer, that I don't have a feel for where you're going to go with an answer, but I would have to say that because Noah was given the 7 laws by God, which included a basic sense of morality, and they have to know that they're doing something that might be fudgy. Otherwise, they would have come straight out to their father and said, "Let's the 3 of us sit down and discuss this." So it's not God didn't give this law; it must be okay. I think they really do have a feeling. This may not. Let's not run this past Dad.
You're exactly right, and that's a very valuable clarification that you're making, which is they wouldn't have had to get him drunk if everything was hunky-dory. So obviously there's an unease, but what they're dealing with here is something that confronts all of us, which is a choice between something bad and something worse. It would be great if all our choices in life were between good and evil, because I think most of us could figure that out. The problem is that the curse that was brought into the world when Adam and Eve violated the law of eating the fruit of the Garden of Eden, the special tree of the knowledge that combined good and evil, is that since then, many of our decisions, if not most of our decisions, involve choosing between something that's not great and something that's even less great. Or sometimes, if we're lucky, we have a choice between something which is wonderful and something that's even better. But things are not always so clear. For them, there were 2 bad choices, really.
Yeah, I think the point is that we don't look at them with disgust. We look at them and they were really trying to do the right thing. It wasn't the right thing, but the attempt. But can you repeat, because we've now we've spoken so far away, just the words which say, "and the older said to the younger," in Hebrew.
Let's do it in the Hebrew.